Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Well, we're over 300 episodes, but this is a first. I've got the Doyenne. I have the Queen. Get ready for Dr. Nadia Brown. Nadia, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
So the name of your company is the Doyenne Agency. I would love to hear the backstory. Give us the professional journey of what brought you to the work that you're doing today, and then we'll use that as a jumping off point.
Okay, perfect. So I chose the word Doyenne for the company because when I first started, I was working with women executives in the corporate space. A lot of them were in fields where it was more male dominant. So engineering, technology, those sorts of things, fields that I'd been in previously. And I wanted a word that really spoke to this woman. And when I did my homework and my research, I came up with Doyenne, and one of the meanings for Doyenne is standout woman leader. And I was like, yes, yes. So that is how we came up with the name. The original version was the Doyenne Leadership Institute because my focus was leadership. However, talking about my journey, one of the challenges that Nadia had was sales. And so I was great with leadership. I have a doctorate in leadership. I was great with training and helping women, writing books, doing all the things, right, you're told to do as you're building your business. But that sales thing was just that very elusive piece for me. And I found myself, David, in a place where there was way more money going out than what was coming in. And it led to some very uncomfortable conversations. And I ultimately had to have a come to Jesus conversation with myself, like, Nadia, are you going to do the very thing that you have been traveling the country encouraging other women to do, which is shatter your inner glass ceiling? Like, what is it internally that's preventing you from being able to really tackle this? And so that led me on a different journey of, I need to learn how to sell, and I need to learn how to sell quick. And so through a process of trainings and just really, figuring out, like, how does Nadia sell like Nadia and be effective at it is what really led me on that journey. And then I had the opportunity to work with a team. And so I tell people all the time, I'm like, when I was originally approached, I did not know I was going to be doing sales. I thought I was going to be doing my leadership thing with a little bit of sales coaching on the side. However, I quickly found myself not only doing sales, but I quickly rose to number one salesperson. And I realized that I was having fun doing it. So this thing that was at one time like my arch nemesis is now something that is fun that I'm doing on a regular basis. And now people are seeking me out to support them in doing sales. And so that was, what really put me on this journey. After I left that team, it took me about a year or two before I decided that, I can't put this genie back in the bottle kind of thing. I really need to embrace it. So we pivoted the business. We renamed it a little to the Doyenne Agency. And now we get to provide sales support and sales training to other women business owners.
Totally amazing. There is definitely something about women and sales, and maybe even it's about women and entrepreneurship. And, it's not any easier or harder than it is for men, but it is different, right? It is different. And part of it is all these cultural head trash around, even talking about money mindset, talking to strangers, selling is dirty. When you ask an average audience, I'm sure you've done this, when you ask an average audience, so what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of sales? Sleazy, pushy, annoying, painful, selfish, right?
Used car salesman.
Exactly. So tell us about the two parts of your business, or maybe there's more than two parts. You mentioned sales, done for you sales, like a sales team, plug-in sales team, and sales training. What are the other profit centers? What are the other revenue streams in your business right now?
Those are the two primary. So we either provide live training. We are creating and launching some on-demand training. We're getting more of that. It's like, oh, there's only so much Nadia to go around. So I will be doing that, but it still, falls under the training piece. And we've supported businesses, like you said, as that plug-in sales team. Primarily, I would say over the past couple of years, it's been mostly at live events. Prior to that, it was pretty balanced with live events and ongoing. But, over the past few years, it's been mostly the live event sales support.
So let's talk to the woman entrepreneur out there who is thinking, I could do one of two things. I could learn sales, and Nadia would be great to, hey, can you teach me sales? Or, wait a minute, what if I just had this plug-in sales team? So I'm sure that when clients come to you, it's like, well, would you like us to train you, or would you like to outsource this to us? What are some of the decision-making criteria that you recommend to an entrepreneur when they call you up? What kind of entrepreneur should really get the sales training and learn it herself or himself? And what kind is it really a much better fit to say, you know what, let's do your sales function for you?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest difference is, do you know what you're selling? And it sounds so basic, but there are lots of times when we just aren't clear on what our offers are. And so if you have a clear offer, something you've been selling, you typically already have a process in place, then it's far easier for our team to come in and pick up the ball and run with it. If you're still kind of in that space of I'm figuring things out, then I recommend you start with us with helping you get clear on that piece. Let's talk about how you're going to do it, train you on it. Because even when you hire a sales team, whether it's outsourced or you build it in-house, you're still responsible for the results that they create. And so being able to lead them and know how you want things to be done within your own business is really key. And so it'll just help you get better results. A lot of times, not only get better results, but get those results a lot faster. Because that's the other thing. When you hire a sales team, it's like, I want you guys to start making sales as quickly as possible. And so the more you have in place, the clearer you are on your own process and what's been working, the easier it is for your sales team to come in and start getting those results a lot faster.
For sure. Now, I want to talk about sort of sales and internet marketing, because I think, and I'd love to hear your experience on this too, of course, internet marketing, I think, has totally warped the term sales. So when you say sales, and let's say someone has an online business, or they have, most of their business is online, they go, oh, I get it. So you're going to buy a whole bunch of Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Google ads. You're going to have this constant stream of leads. You're going to book calls all day long. And me, as the salesperson, I'm just going to be, taking calls so that they magically come in the door. And that's what sales is. So there's inbound versus outbound, I guess is my point. As opposed to like the old school non-internet marketing definition of sales is prospecting, outreach, connecting with people on LinkedIn, sending emails, inviting them to a phone call or a Zoom call. So talk to us about inbound versus outbound, and either in your training or in the outsourcing of the team that you have, how does that play out, that whole inbound, outbound confusion?
Oh my gosh, it's such a great question. One of the things that often happens, especially when people reach out to us for sales support, is they're not even clear on what type of support they need. And so they'll say, Nadia, we need a sales team or a salesperson. Great. What type of salesperson do you need based on your business? Because like you said, it's very different for inbound versus outbound. And I find that there are many who are really looking for someone to help with the business development, the prospecting, the doing some of those pieces that like no one likes to do, versus inbound where the leads are coming in. But even with inbound, it's not always the way it sounds, right? It seems like all we have to do,
big air quotes,
right? Get the ads and the leads are just going to come pouring in. And that is not always the case. And even when it does become the case, it's typically a lot of trial and error to get to that point. And just because the leads are coming in doesn't mean they're quality leads. So there's that layer too. We typically work a lot with inbound. However, I really like the mix of outbound in terms of the relationship, right? So there is that piece of your marketing kind of being that beacon to let people know the doors are open and how you can serve. So it is attracting people, but it is a relationship. And I think that that's where people drop the ball a lot of times. It's like, I just have this ad. People are just going to come in and then they're immediately just going to buy from me. And that's not the case. And it's true whether it's a low ticket item or a high ticket item. I recall there have been times when it's been a low ticket item, something I've been very interested in, because obviously I've been clicking around on the internet, and I've paused before entering my credit card number. Sometimes I've decided not to. Had nothing to do with whether I could afford it, but there was something relationally that was missing that caused me to pause and say, I don't know about this. And I think that that is part of where we as salespeople, business owners, can really fill in those gaps with building the relationship, having that focus on relationship, whether it's snail mail. Like I know people are like, Nadia, what? Why would I send something in the mail in this day and age?
Well, because no one else is.
Exactly. And I find that, and I don't know if this is true, I have not done the research, and we work mostly with women, but I find that with women, when you really dial that in, that is a game changer. And I have a couple stories. So one is, this was years ago, someone sent me some products they wanted me to try. They wanted, to work with me. And they sent me some products, some samples, a little postcard, some information about the products, but they put it in a pink envelope. Simple, David. As soon as my husband walked in with the mail, I was like, that is for me, and I can't wait to open it. And I called her and I was like, oh my gosh, tell me more. And she got to work with me. And so I think that it's really key that we pay attention to those things. Now, not every woman likes pink, so that's why you got to get to know your audience. She knows that's one of my favorite colors. So it worked totally for Nadia. The other one, and honestly, this just happened right before our time together today. Someone reached out outbound who I don't know. So I received a cold email, and they are trying to get me to talk to them about doing some services for our team. And immediately there were a couple of things that really stood out to me. And it was, they'd gone to my YouTube channel, and they at least know, I don't know if they've ever listened to a single video I've recorded, but they've at least gone and knew the name of it, so that when they sent me this cold email, they could at least say, hey, we've seen your videos on Straight Talk About Sales with Dr. Nadia. We'd love to talk to you about how we may be able to support you in whatever in your business. Have you thought about, right? And so it's one of those things that even if you're doing the outbound piece, it's just a simple pause. I'm sure it's a template to email. You can easily cut and paste different people's YouTube channel names, right? But it's those little things that cause you to pause and say they took the time to at least know the name of the podcast. Like it makes it stand out from the other cold emails that I may receive. Right. And they may be offering the same services. And so I think that in this day and age with internet marketing, one of the things I think we often overlook is the importance of relationship and getting to really connect and dial into our ideal clients. And it's sometimes very simple things that we can do to make us stand apart from others. But when we're trying to do this whole mass thing, it kind of waters down our efforts.
Hey, if you're loving this episode as much as I am, pop over to doitmarketing.com/manifesto and get your free 37-page download guide to how to sell smarter, sell more easily, sell more often. That's what we're here to help you with at The Selling Show. Off you go. Well, you bring up another really important point, which I want to ask you about. Targeting and messaging, right? I'm sure when clients come to you, either for the sales training or the agency work, it's like, so who would you like to do business with? Answer number one, anybody with a check. Answer number two, whoever wants what we do. And they have no criteria. They have no criteria whatsoever. So the problem with that, and I'm going to be asking you for like because this is a particular problem, I think, in your situation, you don't want to waste your team's time. You don't want to be like, oh, no, let's talk to 8 unqualified people every day to get the one qualified person and have a slight chance of closing them. How are you reinforcing with your clients criteria, customer selection, don't try and boil the ocean, specificity around your messaging, specificity around who you're calling out to, even what level of problems you're solving, right? Because when we solve lower level problems, guess what? We get lower level prospects. When we aim higher and we look at a higher order problem, because successful prospects, they have problems too. But when we call out the successful prospects' problems and say, we help you with this, then you're going to have a much higher quality of lead flow. How do you get entrepreneurs to decide on that criteria and then stick with it?
Oh my gosh. It's like herding cats sometimes. But I think, well, one, we ask the question, how do we know this is the perfect client, right? Like, how will we know if we are doing your sales conversations for you and you open your inbox and you're like, yay, I have a new client. I want you to be as excited once you meet that person. And so how do we know that that's a great fit? So that causes them to then think about, well, who do I want to work with? And that's usually how we start that conversation. And then we just start to reverse engineer it. Like, what questions do we need to ask as your sales team to uncover that this is the right fit, right? And so being able to really do that. Now, getting them to stick with it is challenging. One of the reasons, though, is we have so many options. And there's always a new expert, a new guru, a new system, a new something that we can use. And sometimes getting our entrepreneurs and business owners to focus is the challenge. Some are better than others, but it's like, oh, I just saw this new thing, or I just hired a new coach. And it's like, oh my heavens, not because we don't like coaches, but it's usually like now we're going to be undoing all that's been working to now try something new. And so that's usually the hardest part. But when they start to see the results, I think that really helps to get them to focus. And then when you get a few bad clients or people that aren't the best fit, right? Also, when you're like, okay, let's talk about this because I don't want to go through that process again. So sometimes it takes a little pain to get them to, recommit to what we put together.
For sure. I'm curious, Nadia, what kind of entrepreneurs do you work with? You mentioned women, obviously, but is it bricks and mortar? Is it kind of coaches, consultants, trainers? Is it accountants, lawyers, doctors, chiropractors? What's the range?
That's a great question. So we have mostly service-based. We work with very few, if any, product-based businesses. And then also it ranges. So we've worked with the coaches, consultants. We've also worked with accountants, different trainers, speakers. So work with those ranges of folks who are like, here are the things that I'm doing. And now I really need support in how I talk about my work, how I have the right systems to support me in my work. Or I'm at that point where I'm ready to grow and scale. I'm thinking about team, more earnestly. How can I get some of these things off my plate? So then those are the people that we're really having those conversations with.
Got it. And I'm also wondering, as far as, because, sometimes people come to you and like me in the early days, like you in the early days, they have no idea about sales and selling. You sort of have two jobs, right? One is to extract out of them the people that have bought from you. Tell me about them. What did they come in with? What were they complaining about? What were they asking you about? And you kind of try and reverse engineer some of the successful sales they've had from memory. You say on your website, for example, it's part art and part skill and, part conversation and relationship. When the client doesn't have the art, when the client doesn't have the skill, tell me how you craft this kind of sales messaging and sort of pull out of the entrepreneur what you need so that you and your team can start selling effectively with them.
Absolutely. I think I'm just thinking of all the times we had to go through that. I think, one is to reassure people that sales is a learnable skill. is totally possible. Take it from me, from someone who did not know what she was doing to being able to now train others. It's possible. The other is to ask the questions. And this is something that I teach when I'm teaching people how to have sales conversations, is knowing the right questions to uncover the information that you need to make a decision, even as a salesperson. Is this the right fit? And so we have our questions that we ask, and we take them through that process. I think one of the first things that we have to do is to reassure them that we are a judgment-free zone. Because you mentioned earlier, even talking about money, talking about sales, like it just brings up a lot of stuff. And the people are nervous and they're anxious. And I think when they see you or see me and the team, they feel like I'm coming in with some type of judgment around wherever they are in their business. And I have to reassure them that I am not. And that we are really here to help you and support you as you are now thinking about making this transition, or as you're working to just get better at sales yourself. And so that is part of our process, is just, and we've gotten that feedback. Like people are like, I just felt like there was no judgment. I felt safe to really talk about the things that I need to talk about. And so once we get some of that emotional ick out of the way, it gets a lot easier to ask the questions and get the responses that we need, the information that we need to, do our jobs. The other thing I will say is that also it's not always perfect the first time. And so it's reminding people that this is also part experiment. Like you said, part art, part science. Part of science is experimentation. And so some of this is going to require us to just try it on, see how it fits, evaluate the results, come back to the lab, make any adjustments we need to make, and put it back out there. And so that's the other piece, is just letting people know this isn't a one hit. We're going to come in, we're going to get it perfect. If we do nail it the first time, great. But chances are something's going to need to be adjusted. And so that's the other piece, is reminding people to give themselves enough runway. I think sometimes we are such a rush to get results in our businesses that we don't give ourselves or our ideas enough time to really take root and gain traction in order to see the results that we desire. So it's also that piece of getting people slow down, calm down, we will eventually get there.
Right, for sure. Well, I'm also wondering from the client perspective, if they don't have sales, or if they're not good at sales, they sometimes don't have a lot of money. So I'm sure you get this pitch, because I get this pitch all the time for what we do. They say, well, David, I'm really in a bad spot. And, you're awesome at sales, and I have belief in you and confidence in you. How about, you know where this is going, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about I give you like 50% of whatever you bring in? Like, we'll just do this on a revenue share basis. You're awesome. I have a great service. I'm a fantastic person that can deliver this thing. You sell it and we'll do 50-50, and it's not going to cost me anything. Now, besides the fact that you and I both know this person's living in Looney Town, where does that question even come from? And then how do you redirect and bring this person back to reality?
Oh my gosh, David, that is one of my pet peeves.
Me too. We're just talking shop here, people. I'm not sure why you're listening in. Nadia and I, we're just talking shop. We're just kvetching here.
Oh my gosh. I don't know where that comes from, but it's a very common conversation that all I have to do, here we go, all I have to do is hire this salesperson, pay them whatever my percentage commission is, and they're just going to come in and work magical wonders in my business where I have failed to do so. And it's just like, no. And one reason is you're now asking this person, whether it's myself or David, right, to come in and have this vested interest in your business, and you don't have that same level of commitment to your own business. It also reeks of desperation. So now there's a lot of desperate energy going on. There's a lot of times just a lot of chaos when you get in there and you start to kind of unpack. So one of the redirects is to really just say, okay, wait a minute. I start asking questions around what's really going on. Let's just take that. Let's put that to the side for a second, because I'll come back to that crazy. right? But let's just talk about like, what systems do you have in place? Like you said, what have you known to work in the past? Tell me about your successful, like to really start uncovering some of that. Because I think one of the misconceptions, especially when it comes to hiring a salesperson, is all I have to do is just hire this amazing salesperson and all the things that's going on in my business will magically disappear. And that simply is not true. And so it's really to start to have that conversation around what's going on in the mind of that business owner, start to uncover what are some of the other pieces. Because here's the thing, your sales team still needs to know what it is that you're selling. So they have to get familiar with your offer. How are you generating those leads if you already have some sort of marketing in place? But if not, then they're the ones that may be doing the business development piece or going out and prospecting. So again, they need to know who. And a lot of times they don't know who. They don't know who, they don't know what, they don't know how. There is no system in place. What happens when we close the deal? They're not ready for the yes. Like some of those simple questions. So when I start digging, I'm like, before we can sell, there's so many pieces that we need to back up and we need to implement for you or help guide you or with you so that you can have that in place. So no matter who you hire, they can come in and actually be successful. Because otherwise that person then has to build these things so that they have the tools and resources that they need in order to do their jobs well. They are non-existent. And so you're basically just hiring someone, I don't even know, to just hang out, right? And then that person is not going to see results quickly. And if they're only there for commissions, you know how to eat quickly. That's going to be out the window and they'll be focused on something else.
Right.
So you'll have a salesperson in name only because they won't be focused on your business. Trust me.
Yeah, absolutely. Nadia, you mentioned that we need to get familiar with their offer. Do most of your clients have like one offer that they want you to sell? Or for example, a consultant might say, well, I have an online course, I can do a 90-day leadership program, or I've got a 1-year organizational consulting project, and maybe that's value-based fees. It's not even a fixed fee. So is it typically, hey, just sell this one program, it's 8 weeks, it's $6,000 or whatever, something like that? Or can it be more open-ended and maybe there's different levels of good, better, best that client has to sell?
Yeah. So a lot of times we can sell it all. I typically, depending on the client, we will start with based on the investment level. So we like to sell stuff that's usually about $10,000 or more. So we start there. Now, granted, when you're having a conversation, if that's not a great fit, and I know that there's another option that may be a better fit, then I like to know about that. So then I can present that. But we do like to sell those packages or offers that start at 10 or more. And
so I'm sure, as with any sophisticated salesperson, they're also listening for, well, maybe there's an upsell here. Maybe the person wants a more comprehensive solution. Absolutely. Or, wow, this person sounds like they're having some rough time. Maybe there's a downsell that's an entry level kind of gateway drug, if you will. Mm-hmm. So they're also doing that kind of judgment as they're in the conversation.
Absolutely. So one thing I will add to that is I encourage clients to have 3 and not 12. Because then, we have the opposite. I can serve, and it's like, no. So like you said, we have our base, what I like to call your core offer. And then you may have an upsell or a downsell. Then that's great. That allows you to really have that conversation you just described. But when I have the McDonald's menu and I have 12, 15 different options, now, as a salesperson, it's just way too much going on in my mind around which one of these am I going to pick for that person. Right. So really refining it and streamlining your offers is what I recommend.
Is it either better or easier if there is just kind of one main offer and that's really the main thing that the person has to sell?
At times, I believe the answer is yes.
Okay.
So for example, I had a client, it's been about 5 years now, when we first started working together. I came in, I looked at her offers. I was like, girl, what we're doing now is not going to work. Not going to work for not only your revenue goals, but just your life goals. Like there were just time, it just wasn't structured right in terms of how she had it structured, but also price wise to really support her time to not be in her business all the time and no time for her family. And that's not what she wanted. And so we came in, we restructured it. And for about a year, a little over a year, she only had the one offer. That was it. It was a 10K offer and we only had the one option. And then what it allowed us to do was really get focused, got her revenue up. And then we were able to create a more leveraged offer. But during that time, over that year plus that we were doing that, we were building up a nice list of folks who were chomping at the bit to work with her in a way that was more in line with how they wanted to work with her. So either they wanted to be in a group or they wanted something that was a little more affordable.
Yes.
And then so when we launched her leveraged offer, she had a 6-figure launch her first time out the gate, but she had to commit to only having one option for a little over a year, which is hard sometimes to commit to.
Yes. Especially for entrepreneurs that have the shiny object syndrome every 5 minutes. Right. Let's do this. And then let's have a VIP day. And then let's sell them this. And how about a course? And how about some recordings? Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there. So let me ask you another controversial hot topic. And again, this comes out of kind of internet marketing type of sales. Throughout our conversation, you've mentioned a word that many entrepreneurs have no idea what you and I are talking about. This word is process when you put it after the word sales. Sales process.
Yes.
A lot of these internet marketing gurus, they're talking, Nadia, one call close. One call close. Get them on the phone, close them into 10K. Next, move on. 5 sales a day. I'm going to be a zillionaire. Talk to me about one call close versus what most humans prefer, which is a sales process based on trust, relationship, relevance, and value.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hate that term too. Because it's misleading. And when you're newer in business, it's actually setting you up for failure, in my opinion. And then a lot of times it's not only the one call close, but you need to close them in like 20 minutes or less. Like it's just that time pressure. And I remember trying to have these conversations with people and enroll them sometimes in a program that was a 5-figure investment and be like, okay, I only have like 7 more minutes. And it's like, no. So just say no. And the truth of the matter is, you're doing things on the front end in order to, once that you and that person are in a conversation, to even get to that point where you can call it a one call close, right? But the truth of the matter is, many of us don't close in a single call. It just doesn't happen for a variety of reasons. And I think especially now, because people are really thinking about and being a lot more discerning around how I want to use, invest my resources. And so it's not even a matter in a lot of cases of whether I can, it's a matter of, do I want to right now based on all the things that are going on? And so that's why I think it's really important. And I keep preaching it. And apparently so do you, David, sales process and following up, because people need time to think about it. People need time to sleep on it. People need time to look at their resources. People need time to just, weigh in with themselves. And we as the salespeople can't allow that chatter and our own pressures around, whatever goals we have or whatever mood that we're in the moment to push us to push people. And so I always say, respect your prospects' buying process. And for a lot of us, that's going to require more than one conversation. They don't have to be lengthy conversations, but it does require, in many cases, some follow-up. And if you don't close it in a single call, you haven't failed. It's just part of the process. And we lose a lot of money when we don't do that. I could tell you story after story with people that need time to think about it and or people that weren't ready yet. And they've come back, sometimes years with an S. I need y'all to hear me. Years, right? So I need you to think long game. And they come back and they're like, okay, now I'm ready. Okay, great. And it may not be the same offer. It's likely not the same investment. It doesn't matter because you've had that relationship and now your buyer is ready. And we can't make people buy. I don't care how good we think we are. We cannot make people buy. We can build relationship. We can show them, we can connect the dots. We have some leverage, some, amount of influence, but we can't force people to buy. And so it's really important to have that process in place because people, they just need time in many cases. Even at our live events, which typically move a lot faster. And so you can have those, okay, I'm ready. There's still some level of following up, checking in. We're text messaging folks, we're having those conversations. They're coming back and asking questions sometimes after the event. And so again, I think, especially in our internet marketing age, everything happens in 37 seconds. We need to give our process time and understanding what those buying cycles really look like, help us to better plan and be prepared in our businesses for that.
I agree with you 1,000%, but right? It's like, I agree with you 1,000%, but ... What I should say is, and I'm curious, because of course there have been hundreds of books written about objections or parts of sales books, like every sales book. There's 70,000 sales books on Amazon. Fun fact, I'm sure almost every one of them talks about objection handling, overcoming objections, just like the ones that you're talking about, Nadia. I need time. I got to think about it. I got to pull the money together. I got to check with my boss, check with my spouse, check with my spirit animal. I got to meditate on it. I got to sleep on it. We all know the 6, 7, 8, 9 most common objections that at every sale happens. How do you distinguish between, I don't want to say a false objection because it's totally real to them. It's totally real to them, but it comes from a place of fear or uncertainty or self-doubt. Like they might love the program. They might love you, but their head talk, their self-talk is, I'm about to buy another program from another coach. I'm about to sign up for another 10K training program. I kind of screwed up the last one because I didn't do the work. I didn't show up. And now they're in hesitation and fear and paralysis. Is it the salesperson's job to sort of work them through that process? Or is it, hey, listen, you've been burned. I hear you. Come back when you're ready. And there's a spectrum in between there.
Absolutely.
But as a skilled salesperson, what are you listening for? What are you asking to kind of get under that?
Yeah. So we don't even have time to talk about how I feel about
this is like 7 episodes. We got to have you back for lots more.
But I will say it depends. And I know people are like, oh, Nadia, really? But it really does. Because every individual that you talk to is different. They're at a different place. And sometimes what they're dealing with, like you said, is so real to them that they may need that time. So one of the things that I encourage, I'm all about asking the questions. So I'm like, okay, great, David. I hear you. So let's put that aside. What else may be coming up for you? Because I need them to express that to me. If it hasn't already come up in conversation, then those are the things that I need to uncover. I've already invested. I'm not really certain, to talk about the fears and to get them out. And so, okay, if you're open, so I typically will ask for permission. If you're open, are you open to us brainstorming or coming up with some ideas? That's also a great way to gauge their level of commitment or interest, right? So if they're open to it, then they really are thinking through, how can I make this work? What are the things that I need to work through? Yeah. And so then I can ask more questions to probe and kind of understand what's really going on. And then I can point out, well, what it sounds like, and then you repeat it back to them. That sounds like a bit of fear coming up for you, Is that accurate? Can you tell me more about that so that they can start to see, oh, wait, this is what's holding me back. But that person still has to be willing and ready to deal with whatever that is, right? A lot of people they're like, oh, you're right, Nadia, no problems. Let me go do whatever. I'm ready. I'm in, whatever that is. But other people, it's just too big for them in that moment. It's just a lot. And I remember a conversation I had recently, and it was a woman who loved the program, loved the coach, was ready, but, right? That but that we don't like to hear. Yeah. And it was just that thing of, I have a lot of debt. I've made these investments. She just has so many emotions around that it wasn't the time to move past it. She just unfortunately, she needed the time to do that. So it wasn't a yes. And it is what it is. And so that was that time, after having that conversation through the tears and everything, I was like, okay, let me back off, because there's that fine line between us being able to help usher someone into taking a bigger stance and doing something courageous for themselves and, making a scary investment, to being that pushy salesperson that we always said we don't want to be. And so you get to that line and you're like, okay, let me just give her some space to deal with this and to go through her own process versus trying to push it. So we have to know what that is. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. But, it's all part of the process. But I think when you have your conversation structured in such a way that when people have those questions and those things come up, just know what types of questions you want to ask to help get to the bottom of that and to help them process through it. Like, are you really ready to talk about it? Are you ready to deal with this? Because I know you'll be different on the other side, but you have to be willing to do your part in it.
Yes, so powerful. And, from the salesperson's standpoint, preparation is everything, right?
Yes.
So be prepared for those 7, 8, 9 most common objections and have a human-to-human conversation to really try and understand what's going on beneath each of those. Mm-hmm. Totally love that. Well, we have to have you back, and this is going to be so fantastic. I know you've got some resources, some downloads, some things that people can jump into right now if they want to stay connected to more Dr. Nadia Brown brilliance and the Doyenne Agency. Nadia, what do we have for people? We're going to link this up in the show notes right below this episode. Where can we send them? What resources can we give them?
Yeah, so we have our Discover Your Sales Blind Spot quiz. Trust me, we all have them. It's a great quiz. It takes about 2 minutes and you'll discover that blind spot, but also we provide resources and ways to work around that so that you can be stronger in your sales.
And the URL for that is?
discoveryoursalesblindspot.com.
No, come on. That's too easy. That's too easy. All right. And then the main website, of course, is the DoyenneAgency.com.
Yes.
And you also do have a fantastic video podcast on YouTube, right?
Yes. It's called Straight Talk About Sales with Dr. Nadia.
There you go. Totally fantastic. Well, such a pleasure. And I'm serious. We have all of our favorite guests back. So let's have you back. We just scratched the surface on all of these things.
Yes.
And if nothing else, it's therapeutic for you and me to vent, right?
Yes. Thank you.
So thank you for being on. This was totally awesome. And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.